Okay, welcome to the fourth phase in this beautiful iPhone development journey. In the last phase, we went over how to save data, how to use cool libraries like Tinydb to do this very easily, and we also went to talk. We went on to talk about how to use extensions, which are uh, basically extensions of the code you already have. They are like an extra arm, to help you do stuff fast. And we also went over how to use pods, and I told you to go ahead and watch this video on your free time and install pods, Cocoapods on your computer. So this fourth phase, we are going to start using pods right away. So the first thing we are going to do is to install a pod. In this case, the Toast pod. Let's go ahead and do that. This one. So I'm gonna open up the library. The Toast pod is a library that helps you display messages on the fly. So instead of printing to the command line and seeing errors there, you can actually toast to the screen and see what's going on. So let's go ahead and download this. This is GitHub again, and you always find the instructions at the bottom of the page somewhere. Like here, we have the instructions for Cocoapod. So all we have to do is include this in our pod file. So let me go over that. First, I am going to make my project seed to support Cocoapods. And to do that, I go to my terminal. I open up my terminal. I'm gonna make this big. So to make our project seed support Cocoapods, the first thing we'll do, just like you saw in the video, is to init Cocoapods into that project. And to do this, we have to navigate to our project. If you remember in the beginning, I made you start off your iPhone projects in a folder nested inside the documents folder and inside iOS. In this case, this is our project seed here. So I save mine in the documents folder, and then in another folder called iOS, and then seed. All right, so I'm going to cd into that folder now. Cd documents cd iOS cd seed. Okay, now I'm in there. So the next thing I'll do is pod init. Now this will initialize Cocoapods in my project. It will make my project support Cocoapod libraries. So pod init, and I'll press enter. That's done. Now this project can now work with Cocoapods. The first way we can notice this is by going into the file system, iOS, seed, and then you'll see a pod file in there. You see that? So this pod file is what you can modify in order to import Cocoapod libraries. So I'm going to double click this pod file, expand it. Okay, so now I'm gonna add this line in there, but before I do this, let me organize this for a second. Trying to organize this, 1 second. Okay, so the goal is to put this line of code in our new pod file. So I'm going to copy this, copy, go back to my pod file, and then while I'm there, I'm just going to do some cleanup. Let's see, just cleaning up some unnecessary codes. These are tests, I don't need them, so I'm just gonna get rid of them. I'm gonna change this to 13. I'm gonna change this to 13. 13. What else? I'm gonna get rid of this as well. Okay. All right, just a few cleanups. Now I'm going to start including the pods. So the pod we copied from GitHub is this one, SK Toast. I've already copied it. I'm gonna go to my pod file and paste it in there. Okay, and then I will save. You can do that by pressing Command S or File. Where is save? File save. All right. Now I've saved it. I'm gonna go back to my terminal and type pod install. Now what this does is it installs the pod we just included in our pod file into our seed project. Because right now the library from GitHub is not included in our project yet. So but once I type in pod install, it's going to include that SK Toast into this project. So let's do that. Pod install. I press enter. Great, it was successful. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close down this project. I'll show you why in a second. I'm going to close down seed. Okay, I'll close it down. And then I'm going to go back to our file system. Now this is the seed project. If you remember, this is the seed folder. So now there is a new file in here called seed.xcode workspace. The major difference between this file and the one we had before is that this one is blue and this one is white. Now, key information, going forward, we're only going to be using this white workspace. This is because this white workspace includes and encompasses all these other projects, including all the pods we have installed. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click the white workspace to open it. This opens up everything, including the pods we just installed. Okay, so I'm going to double click this. Loading. So now I've opened the new workspace. It's still the same project, just that it includes the pods, as you can see. So now this is our pod file. It's now included here, and we can see the new pod we installed. See that SK Toast, and this is our seed project, the same project, you know. All right. Now I'm going to close this down to show you one more thing when regarding opening up your projects. So I'm going to close it down, and then I'm going to open up Xcode one more time. Now you should be able to see the new white seed project. This is the old one, the one before we installed the pods. From now on, you no longer need to open this up. The one you need to click to open up the project is the white one. The white one. Okay, this is the one that includes the project and the pods. So I'm going to double click the white seed, and now it's open. Okay, all right, so now we've imported this SK Toast. We would now use this later down the line, but before we get there, oh, one more thing, let's uncomment this, because I know we had commented it somewhere in the project. That was under seed utils extensions. So uncomment this line here and this one here. The SK tools, like I said, is used to show basic simple messages on the screen. As you can see, this is how it works. SKTools.show. There are other advanced ways of using it, but we're just gonna default to the basic for this our learning project. So that's the same thing I created an extension for here. Remember we talked about extensions as being like an extra arm that helps make things faster. So this I created here is an extension of ViewController. And in that ViewController, I created a function called toast. Created a function called toast. So this is a basic function like you would always know, just that it would always toast any message we put into the parameter of the text. We're going to use this a lot down the line, so you're gonna get used to it. For now, just make sure that you have this function, this extension in your extensions file. It should be there. All I need you to do is uncomment it. All right. So now we have this ready. We can move forward to the agenda for the day. So today we are going to be saving images and loading images on the phone's storage. Last time we saved basic data like strings and numbers to the phone's storage. This time around we're going to be saving images to the phone's local storage. And to do this, we are going to be creating a very basic app that loads up images from the phone's I need to hide this. So we're going to be creating a very basic app that loads up images from the phone's assets, the app's assets folder, and then saves it to memory. So there are going to be 4 images, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each image are going to be placed on a button, and then whichever button you click, that image on that button will be saved to the phone storage and then loaded up on this bigger display. So whatever image we're going to be showing on this bigger display will be the image that was saved to memory, not from the assets folder. We're going to try that out. It's very simple. So click any car and then the car would be shown here. And then when next the app is launched, the car will be automatically shown on this bigger image view. So let's dive into that. The first thing we're going to need to do is let's find the car images first. So let's go on Google and type in supercars. Yeah, supercars PNG. Okay, PNG means we want the PNG format images. Then we click images. Okay, so pick some cars, and then try not to find pictures with very large dimensions. Just find some basic ones. Right click, click save image, and then rename the car to something very simple like yellow underscore car, and then click save. When it saves, it's gonna save it as yellow car.png. Then click save. Yeah, I know. Then find another one. Let's say this one. This is too big. Let's say this red car. Right click it and then click save image again, and then rename it to something like red underscore car, and then click save. So do this for 4 images and then have them ready. Then we'll move on to the next stage. So I already have mine ready, so just waiting on you. So let's go ahead and design this app we have here. So the first thing we'll do is create a new view controller and storyboard. So last time we had our screen 2 for saving data. We're going to now use this button to create the app to create the screen for saving images. So I'm going to call this saving images, and this will be screen 3. Yeah, screen 3, saving images. Enter. All right, so now we have this button created. Let's connect it to the view controller. And remember, we just click this menu up here and click assistance. Hang on, let me hide this first. Let me hide this so we'll have space. So click this menu up here, click assistance, and then the view controller associated with this storyboard shows up. So let me make space for where we're going to add this button. So hold the control key and drag it into the view controller. And in this case, we're going to call this screen, we're going to call this action, IB action called, we're going to call it screen 3 button clicked. Screen 3 button clicked. Press enter. Now it's added. So the next thing we'll do now is to go ahead and create the storyboard and the view controller for this screen 3, because right now we only have ones for screen 1 and 2. So to do that, we right click on view controller, new file. So since view controller is a touch related class, we're going to go with Cocoapod, not Swift. So Cocoapod, I'm going to call this view controller 3. Next, and we are going to click create. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is to create the associated storyboard. So right click on storyboard folder, new file, storyboard. Next, and then we're going to call this storyboard 3, and then create. So now we have the storyboard created. We're going to import a new view controller view into it. So type in view controller view, first one, then drag it into our storyboard. Now we should be able to see it in our storyboard. Click on it, and then once you've clicked on this view controller, click expand this if you don't already have it expanded, and then click on the identity inspector, and then click the class, and then select your view controller 3, view controller 3, this one, and then copy the name, Command C, paste it in the storyboard ID, and then press enter. Then check this box below here, and then we are done connecting the view controller to the storyboard. So now we move on to designing the storyboard. Okay. All right. So we have a design at hand here. So we need this label at the top first. Let's do that. Label. So we click the plus, label, So I'm just trying to make it reach the two ends. Okay. Alright, so we call this image from device storage. I'm going to copy this text, image from device storage. Double click, paste it in here, press enter. Now I'm going to click on attributes inspector and then make some changes to the format. So first I want the text size to be bigger. So fonts, big, bold. And then I'm going to center the text. Let me make it a little more bigger. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm going to change the background color to match this one. So background too dark. Okay. And then we have another one at the middle of the screen. So I'm going to copy this, copy and paste. I don't recommend doing the copy and paste for views you're going to connect to the screen. That's because that can mutate the connections. So let's not. So I'm doing this copy and paste here because I'm not going to connect these labels to the screen. They are just dummy labels. So I'm gonna call this image from assets. Images from assets folder. Images from assets. Okay, and then well, I'm going to include a big giant UI image view here, just like our design. So click the plus. I need the UI image view. UI image view shows an image or a series of images as an animation. So this is used for displaying images. Remember the name, UI image view. It's different from a button. A button can display image, but it's not designed for displaying images. A button is designed for clicking. A UI image is designed and has features that are proper for displaying images, like aspect ratio, formatting, scaling, all those good stuff. So I'm going to expand this. Expand this a little bit. Okay. This is looking good. Now I'm going to make the corners rounded. Remember we added these extensions that gives us the ability to change the corner radius. So I'm going to change the corner radius to like 5, and then I'm going to add a border width of 5 as well. What? 5. Okay. All right. Then border color, I want it to be black. Okay. Remember that this is not going to show on the designer. Rather, it's only going to show when we've run the app. That's when these special extension modifications are going to show. Can I put this on black? Okay, so border color black. All right, and then next we have our 4 buttons that will be showing the cars. Again, this is not going to be an image view because we want to click them. We want them to be clickable. Okay, so these are going to be buttons. So I'm going to click plus button. Good. Going to expand this. Okay, then I'm going to add 3 more buttons. Then one last one. Trying to make them all equal sizes. Okay. All right. Let's move this a little bit. Okay. So now we have the 3 buttons for the cars. Let's get rid of this button text. Press backspace, double click, press backspace, double click, backspace, double click, backspace. Okay. So now the next thing we will do is import the images for the 4 cars. Remember we had downloaded 4 images from here and renamed them to things like blue car, yellow car. So I already have mine here ready and waiting. This is the yellow car. This is my yellow car, my black car, my gray car, and my green car. So I have these images ready. Now the next thing I'm going to do is bring this over to Xcode. Now in iPhone development, images and videos and stuff like that are stored in the, let me minimize this. So images and assets are stored in this folder here called assets, this blue folder called assets. So double click it and it's going to show you this blank space. So the next thing I'm going to do is to drag over those images into this space. I'm going to minimize Xcode and bring this over. Okay. I need this. So I'm going to hold on the command key and select this and then drag them over, and that's it. Now they are included. So now I have access to black car, gray car, green car, and yellow car all across my developments in this project. So now I'm going to go back to my storyboard. I select the first button and then I go to image, see the image section. Now I'm not going to use this one, I'm going to use the background. The background is what I need. I'm going to select background and I select black car. Then for the second image I do the same thing, go to background, gray car, no, another color maybe, green car. Then the third image, go to background, what other car do we have? Yellow car. And then the fourth image, background, and then this should be the gray car. Yeah, looking good. So now we have these 4 cars ready. The next thing we should do is actually get them working so that when we click this car, it saves the image to the, when the app is running and we click this car, it saves this image to the phone's file system and also shows the image up here. Then when next the screen is launched, the image will be automatically shown up here as well. So we're going to do that for these 4 buttons. And the next step that we should proceed with is connecting these 4 buttons and this image view to our ViewController. And if you remember, the way to do that connecting is by pressing this and then pressing assistant. In any situation that doesn't work automatically, what you should do is hold on the Options key on your keyboard. If you are using a Windows designed keyboard, that will be the alternate key. But if you're on a Mac, that will be the Options key, and then press the view controller that you want to be opened side by side with your storyboard. In this case, that will be ViewController 3. Okay, I'm going to hide this. Alright, so the first button, black car, I'll drag it below here because it's an action that is clickable. Hold the control key, drag it in, and call this black car clicked. Connect. Green car clicked. Yep, touch up inside, that's what we want. Yellow car clicked. And then lastly, gray car clicked. Okay. All right, now this is done. The next thing we will do is connect this one. Now, don't be tempted to connect this image view below here. That's not where we want to connect it. The image view, because it's going to be connected as a regular variable, we connect it up here above ViewDidLoad. Again, the reason is because Xcode is designed in a way that variables are to be imported up here, and then clickable actions like buttons are to be connected below ViewDidLoad. So the image view, you see it says insert outlets, but if we do that for a button, it's going to say insert action. So this is an action, this is an outlet. So I'm going to put that up here, and I'm going to call this storage image view, and then I press enter. So now it's connected up here. Okay. All right. So now things are looking good now. And the design is looking like the model we have on our sketch. Where is our sketch? It's looking just like that. So things are looking good. So the next thing we will do now is let's test these buttons and make sure they work. Okay. And to do that, let's use the Toast library we imported. If you remember, we had this extensions which included the skToast. We had included the pod earlier. So we're going to be using this toast function from there to test out these buttons now. So for the black car, we're going to say toast. See the function? It's showing. That's how extensions work. Toast. And we're going to say black. Remember, this is in quotes, meaning that we're passing in a string. Black car clicked. Okay. And then for the green car, we're going to say toast green. Oops, forgot my quotes. Green car clicked. For the yellow car, I'm going to say toast yellow car clicked. For the gray car, same thing, toast gray car clicked. Now again, this is the same concept with saying print, and then you print to the terminal. This is the same concept as saying black car clicked. You know what, I'm going to leave this here so just to show you the difference. So it's going to toast and as well as print to the terminal. So let's run the app and test. I want this to run on iPhone 11. Okay, and then let's run. Everything looks good. This is connected. Black car, green car, yellow car, gray car. All good. All right, so I'm going to run. All right, so I'm gonna click screen 3, saving images. Oh, I just realized we never actually added function to this button. So let's go back and do that. Screen 3, saving images. That would be. So we're going to go back to our ViewController 1, and then we're going to make it launch our ViewController 3 when the screen 3 button is clicked. So let's copy this code from screen 2, Command C, or right click and copy, and then paste it into here. Then all we have to do is change this number to 3 and change this one to 3 as well. Okay, and then let's run the app again. Oh, by the way, I'm going to never mind, let's proceed. Let's run and see. Okay, screen 3, awesome. So now you see our 4 buttons, and you see the rounded corner we added to our main image view. So let's go ahead and test this, but before we do that, I'm gonna make this background a little darker. It's too white and I don't like it. Storyboard. Okay, view. Okay, background. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I think that's better. All right, run. All right, so click on black car. Now you see the toast I told you about. Click on green car, see the message. So that's what I mean by toast. Yellow car, and then gray car. All right, so now let's proceed with the rest of the project, which is making this image so that when we click this, this image is going to save to memory and then load it from memory and shown on this image view. So let's dive into that. I'm going to increase the color radius a little bit. All right, and this was the prints I told you about from the ViewController. This is what the print does, but this is the toast. The toast is the one that showed on screen. This one showed here. All right, I'm gonna get rid of it. Okay, so now we want we want this image to save to memory. So that's the first goal. So how do we do that? Again, we are going to be using Tinydb. Remember the Tinydb we used to save the numbers and strings? So I'm going to import that. Var Tinydb. This is of type Tinydb. And then I'm going to put an exclamation mark. And then I'm going to initialize it here. Tinydb is equal to Tinydb. This is called a variable initialization. Without this, it's probably going to crash. So this is very necessary for any variable. The exclamation mark here means I don't want to initialize it here. So that's why I'm doing it here. So the next thing we'll do is save the images to memory using Tinydb. So for the black car, to save the image to memory, what we do is we first of all instantiate that image which we saved as, remember, it was black car. Okay, so let's do that. ViewController 3. So var black car image. This is of type UI image, an object that manages image data in your app. Okay, so that's how we deal with images on iPhones using this object called UI image. Then equal to initialization UI image. Then I'm going to pass in the name of the file. In this case, it's black car. Okay, I'll go back. So I'm going to type in black car in quotes, black underscore car, exactly as it is spelled in my assets folder, black car. See that? So I'm gonna go back. It wants me to add an exclamation mark just in case the image is missing. All right, so now I have this done. The next thing I will do is save this image. So to do that, I would say tinydb dot put image. See that? This is the function we need, the first one. Press enter. And then we pass in the UI image, which is this car image. So I'm going to type car image. And then the folder, this is the folder whereby it's going to store this image in our apps folder on the file system of the phone. I'm going to pass in a quotation mark and say something like cars/favorites. All right, then the name of the image. In this case, I'm going to say something like, in quotes, fave car.png. Okay, yes, the extension is needed, fave car.png. The folder will be in car. The folder we want it to be stored in is cars/favorites, and then the car image is this car object here, car image object. So now we've saved this to memory. That's what this function does. It saves it to this phone storage. Okay. Now, how do we access this image in the future? Now, it's worth noting that this function put image, it returns to you the file path of the image it stored. It returns the file path of the image is stored, like you can see here, string. So So that means we need to store that file path in a variable var image path. And this is of type string equal to tinydb.putImage. Okay, so now we can save this path and use it in the future. So to save this path, what we do is we use tinydb again, and we say tinydb dot save dot put string. We're trying to store a string in this case, and then we would pass in the key for storing this string as something like let's say fav image path, and then guess what the value would be? To be this path, which is the location on the iPhone file system, image path. That's this variable here. That's what we passed in here. This is a string variable. It's saving a string. All right, so this saves the location where we stored the image that was clicked. So that means we need to remember this key. That's all we really need to preserve here. This key that we use to store the image. All right, so we've loaded the image. We have saved the image into memory, and then we have saved the location where the image was saved using this key called favorite image path. So let's repeat the same thing for the rest of the buttons. And to do this, we just copy and paste. Command C, green car. So the only difference here is that we're going to change this to green car, remember? So on the file system, on the assets folder, we stored green car as green_car. So I'm going to rename this to that for the green car. So it's green. Remember, this has to match, otherwise it's going to crash the app. Let me put some notes here. Save image, load image from assets, and then this stores image into the phone's storage, and then this one saves the path, the string, the path address where the image was stored. All right, so we loaded the image from assets, we stored the image into the phone storage, and then we saved the path address where the image was stored. All right, so again, let's do this for the remainder of the buttons. In this case, the yellow car. So I just have to rename this to yellow car. Let me make sure of how I spelt it. Yellow cars. Okay. I'm gonna come back here. So yellow car. Okay. Then let's do the same thing for the gray car. So here I'm gonna make sure again of how I spelled it. Gray, Gray. Gonna say gray car. Okay. Now let's run a very quick test and make sure nothing crashes. Okay. Now this test is just gonna make sure that the pictures save. We're not loading them yet, but just a quick test. It's very good to test often in programming. Okay, saving images. Okay, good. Nothing crashes. Everything is good so far. All right, let's go back. Now, remember I showed you how to load this image from assets by initializing a UI image variable named yellow car. Now, let me show you another way of doing this. Okay, so for this gray car, I'm going to change this by typing just image and then pressing enter on this image literal. Okay, and then I will double click this and select the image I want. In this case, I want the gray car. Click it, and then this automatically does this for you. So that means you don't need to do this. You can just follow these steps I showed you and have the actual image show here on your code. They all work, they all bring about the same results when you run the app. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. Whichever way you find fun, just go ahead with it. All right, so next we're going to now, remember the goal of this app is to click on a car, it saves that car to memory, to the storage, and then loads it on this big image view. And also when next the app, the screen is launched, it loads that image you stored from the phone storage and displays it here. So let's deal with that part, which is displaying images here after we have clicked the button. So to show the image on our storage image view, all we have to do is say storage image view. This one, remember this image view is this. Okay, so all we have to say is storage image view dot image equal to car image. This one we loaded here, car image, the same car image here, same one here. All right, car image. So I'm going to copy this line and repeat here. For all the other buttons. All right, then I'm going to run the app again and test this out. All right, so black car, good. It showed the image here. Green car, yellow car, gray car. Awesome, this is working perfect. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to make this image show when the screen is launched. So we want to make it load that image we stored to storage, load it onto this image view here. So that's what we're going to do next, because right now it's not showing because we haven't implemented the code yet. So let's dive in and do that. So to do this, we're going to do it in the initialization block of our screen, which is this view did load. This is where you do things that you want to do before the app is shown to the user. So here we're going to load that image from Tinydb. And remember, to load this image from Tinydb, we are going to need the path to where the image is stored. Remember, we had the path here, and then we saved the paths with Tinydb again as a string. Remember, it's just like an address, kind of like when you have a file system address, like just like you have a website address, you also have your file system address. So that's what we're going to use to load this back up from memory. So we say, so var image path, no, favorite image path, fav, or let's just call it image path, and this is of type string, equal to, this would be so tinydb dot get string, and then we pass in the same key we used to store the image. Let me use this one. The same key we used to store the image, which is this one. So I'm going to copy it, copy, and then go up here and paste it in here. Okay, so this would get that file path for us. So the next thing we're going to do is use this file path to load the images. Okay, the image, not the images. So we're going to say if image path, if image path dot is empty, if image path is not empty, because that would make sure we are not trying to load this image the first time the app is run when there is nothing stored in memory. So if image path is not empty, and tinydb dot image I think I need to make some quick changes. I made some update to tinydb and I did not update. Hang on 1 second. I'm looking for the image exists function and it's not shown. Tinydb raw command A, command C. You don't need to do this. By the time you go through this lesson, everything is already there. Okay. All right, so now let's get back to action. So I'm looking for tinydb.imageExist, this one. All right, tinydb.imageExist. Then I'm going to pass in the same path, image path, and then my code. So what I just did now is I checked to make sure that this string is not empty, and then I checked to make sure that this image path doesn't lead to a non-existent file. Okay, then in here I am going to load the image. So I'm going to say var loaded image, or let's say image from storage, var image, just to make things much more readable, image from storage, which is of type UI image, is equal to tinydb dot get image. Now we are getting the image using the path we loaded up here. Tinydb dot get image, and then we pass in this, so image path, and then, as you may have guessed, the next thing is to now load this image into our storage image view. So we say storage image view, oops, storage dot image equal to what do you think? Equal to image from storage. Image from storage. No. Image from storage. Yes. All right. So to go over what we just did, we retrieved our image address. Then we made sure that the image address is valid and leads to an actual file. And then we loaded that image into an UI image variable, which we now passed into our storage image view. Again, our storage image view is this image view over here. Let me show you. That's this one. All right. So with that done, again, we did this in our ViewDidLoad function because we want this to happen right when the screen is about to show. All right. So let's run the app and test again. Okay, going to click yellow car. I'm going to close down the screen, launch the screen again. There you go, yellow car is already shown. So that means it's working. I'm going to try with green car. It's saved to memory. And then after that, it loaded the same image onto the image we clicked onto our image view. So the next thing we want to test is to see the image, to test and see if the image would show when the screen is launched. That is after this ViewController is closed and then launched again. And as you can see, it's working. So black car, green car, gray car, yellow car, gray car. Let's test. It's working. Awesome. So this also lasts after you have closed down the app itself. That means after you've completely closed down the app or even killed the screen, it still works. Or even restart the phone. But also keep in mind that when you are running tests on a simulator, every time you press run, Xcode clears all the files you have stored on the device, excluding string and text. So if you had stored previously images like these car images, every time you press run, Xcode is going to clear those images from the phone. This won't happen on an actual device if you're testing on an actual device. That's why we had these if statements here, to make sure that the app doesn't crash if Xcode had cleared those images. This is not something to worry about. It's just something to keep in mind when you are testing with a simulator, okay? But this won't happen if you are testing on a physical device. But for now, we're good to go, as long as we have our checks. All right, so this is the app working. Remember, our goal was to save images and load images locally by creating an app that displays a set of images from assets. Then the app saves this image to device storage. The photo that was picked from the sets gets shown the next time the screen is launched, and continues like that. So we've been able to successfully achieve this. As a review, remember we had to initialize Tinydb, and then we used Tinydb to save the image to memory, and then we also saved the paths where that image was stored to Tinydb. In this case, behind the scenes NSD user defaults, and then we loaded that image to the big display of the image that was clicked, and then we did a toast, which is a way of showing status on screen. And then I also showed you an extra way of loading a UI image object from the assets folder. So with that said, the next thing we're going to go over today is we've done this, installing pods, is connecting different screens, wireframing. All right, now this is a very simple concept. As long as you have a pen and paper at hand, it's very straightforward to do. It simply means when you have an app that has multiple screens, for example, we've created apps that had the app we are working on right now is going to eventually have like 8 screens. So we have the initial screen, which has around, let me kill this off, it's blowing off my computer. Okay, so currently we have an app that has multiple screens. Screen 1, C command V, C command V. Okay. So I'm trying to show you how you can, envision these ideas by drawing them out either on paper or using something like Google Drawings. Either one helps. Me personally, I like to do this on paper. Screen 2. This is screen 3. Screen 4. Screen 5. And each of them leads to a different screen. Okay, so then you can use arrows to connect them. This is to help you visualize what you're about to do. Yeah, that doesn't look good. Okay. So we can call this screen 1 with all the sketches and buttons that we want to be on that screen, and then this one is connected to screen 2, and this one is connected to screen 5. And you can have all the fancy buttons you want there. So I prefer doing this on paper or here, depending on the complexity of the project. But you get the point. So this is a way of visualizing what you want to create before you create it, and then you can also create a new page to do this individually. The page we are currently doing this on is Google Drawings. Google Drawings, the address is drawings.google.com. Just like this, drawings.google.com. You can also find this from Google Drive when you open up Google Drive, you click on the left hand side, the plus button, and then click Google Drawings. It's under the folder called More. That means to access more creative tools. Or you can just do drawings.google.com. So this is what I mean by wireframing. It's very good to have this on hand to visualize what you want to do. Now, this is really important to have these kinds of sketches because they help you save time. It's not a good idea to ideate on the actual storyboard. It's good to have the app already sketched out and then you just go to work on it. That saves you time, and it's also fun, to visualize on paper or on something like Google Drawings and then bring the idea to life on here. It makes you much more organized and saves you a lot of time. So next I am going to show you how to close a view controller. Okay, and to do that I am going to make this button, I'm going to turn this button evil. So whenever this button loads, saves its image, I'm going to make it close the view controller. Alright, so let's do that. So this is the gray button, view controller 3. So after this happens, I want it to dismiss. Just say dismiss. Animated, true. Completion, just pass in nil. That means nothing should happen after the completion. Alright, so when I run this code and I click the gray button, it's going to close the screen, not the app, the screen. It's loading. See? Click this one, nothing happened, but when I click this gray car, so it closes the screen. See that? So that's what that's how you dismiss a screen or a view controller, just by clicking, by using the dismiss function, this one. And then another thing I want to show you is how to launch a view controller in full screen. As you can see, these view controllers are shown in a card format. How about if you really wanted to show full screen? Let me show you how to do that. Okay, so to make this show full screen, you simply go back to where you launched the view controller from. In this case, that will be in screen 1. Okay, so that's here. Before you call show, you say view controller, in this case the controller. Why isn't this organized? Hold on. You say controller dot model presentation style, that means how you want this controller to show, equal to dot full screen, and then you run the app. So the key is to say controller.model.presentation style before you say show or present. So I'm going to run the app again, and it's going to show in full screen. So watch this. See, it's now in full screen. I can't drag it off anymore. And now I need a button to actually get rid of this screen if I want to get rid of this screen. And in this case, that button was this one. See? Because now the card format is no more shown. So I need a manual way to do it. So that's how you dismiss a screen, and that's how you show a screen in full screen, a view controller in full screen, by saying controller.model presentation style equal to full screen. I remember we were opening the screens from our first view controller. Next, we're going to sketch our next app, which is a food order app. This is going to be the next big step in this app development process. This is because we've gone through the process of using Xcode, we've gone through the process of saving data and saving images. These are very important aspects of programming in any software. Now, the next thing we are going to do is we're going to touch on something called object-oriented programming in the next phases. And this food order app is going to really dig deep into that, on how to use objects to store data and manipulate data in a much more organized way to create something like a food order app, or even an Instagram app, whatever kind of app. They all use object-oriented programming. So that's what we're going to do next. But before the next session, I want us to design the next app using this format I just showed you. So let me use this one. So I'm going to clear everything here. Oh, by the way, I pressed Command A and then press backspace. So I'm going to use this space to sketch out the next app. I'm going to call this food order app. Okay. So the intention is to have an app where you can place order in. It's basically a restaurant, and then you place your order, and then the app sums up your orders and places the order into the restaurant. So first we're going to need a screen that shows the total cost of your order so far. So this is just a sketch, just like I talked about. So we're not going to design the app in this phase. It's going to be for the next phase, but this is just a sketch we're going to create before we call it a day. Order total and a center. I want this bold. Okay. Fill in. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, then we need our customer name. So that would be a text field where the person or the cashier can type in the customer's name. Customer name. I give this a fill-in of maybe this. Yeah, that works. And then we need three items in our food menu. We're going to call this chips. Command B, increase the font size. Command C, Command V, Command C, Command V. We need 3 items in our food menu. Okay, looking good. Okay, so let me center this. Center. So it's really good to make a sketch of the app, like I said, and this would be wings, because that way when you're working on the app, you know exactly what you're working on. You're no longer guessing. And then this would be Coke. Chips, wings, Coke. And then we need some kind of display that is going to show what's been ordered so far. So we're going to have a label down here. Okay, and the label is going to say things that have been ordered. So in this case, ordered items. I'm going to fill this in with too dark. Yeah. Okay, then we need the button to place the order. Place order. Command A, Let me make this bold and then center it. Fill it in. Okay, looking good. Looking good. So this is going to show the order total. This is the customer name. Then the items on the menu. Chips, wings, Coke. Let me add a background real quick. That's really off. Yeah, chips, wings, and Coke. Okay, so next session we are going to start working on this sketch, and then start working on the actual app implementation. And with that said, remember to keep working on Swift. You need this to be able to create apps. So keep working on Code Academy, learning Swift on there. Keep up the good work. And next session, we're going to create the food order app. All right. And with that said, I will catch you in the next one. Remember, never give up. Okay.